Hello, everybody, and welcome to Voices of the Goddess, where we empower, inspire, and uplift women to be the goddesses that they are meant to be. I'm excited to be here with you today. My name is Allison Mancini. I am one of the co-hosts on Voices of the Goddess, and I am a holistic nutritionist and human resources director for an amazing company. My passion is about helping women to take care of themselves basically through food. I'm a big believer in food can be medicine, and it really can take care of our bodies best when we eat well. And so I'm just really passionate about making sure that women take the time to take care of themselves, get the right fuel into their bodies so that they can be their best goddess self. I am also married to a wonderful man, and I have 2 adult children I'm extremely proud of, 25 and 22. And I live in sunny, nice and cool South Florida today. It's cooler down here. We're loving the cool weather this week. But I'm originally from Michigan. I'm a Midwest girl, just like my co-host. So would you like to introduce yourself?
I would love to introduce myself. I'm Julietta, otherwise known as the Magical PT. I am, as Allison said, originally from the Midwest. I grew up in Wisconsin and moved to Florida in the early 90s. And I am a physical therapist, but in a very non-traditional sense. I started working for myself about 20 years ago just because I didn't fit in with the way traditional physical therapy is practiced. And I really look at the person and a body as a whole, mind, body, spirit, not just working on their muscles and bones, but really addressing the whole being, because true healing only happens when you look at the whole. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Well, would you like to introduce our sponsor?
Oh, see, you had me all confused by me going second today.
I know.
Well, no, you know why? Because we normally do our talk and then we do the sponsor before we bring on our guest.
Okay, fine. Then we'll do the talk. Okay. So, all right. Listen, this is how we roll. We are perfectly imperfect. And if you do not think you can start a podcast, you are sorely mistaken. Anyone can do this. You just need to have have an amazing producer behind you. That's what you need. And we have one of those. So
that definitely helps.
Okay. So let's talk about your practice, because I think what's interesting to me is when I first met you, do you realize we've known each other almost 7 years now?
That's crazy.
I know, it's kind of crazy. So when I first met you and found out you were a physical therapist, I was like, oh yeah, physical therapist for after you have surgery. Because in my head, you go to a physical therapist after you have surgery or whatever. And I have, had scoliosis when I was younger, and I've had knee surgeries, and I've had other surgeries. So I've gone through my fair share of physical therapy. But I remember when, I don't know, we were probably talking about my back because of the scoliosis. I tend to have back issues. And you're like, oh, you should come see me. And I'm like, but aren't you just for like after cert? Like, I had no clue. So anyways, fast forward 6+ years later, I was actually in Julietta's office last week because I, at the lovely age of 51, have a heel spur. So they are not fun. They really hurt.
Yes.
And you really depend on walking. When you cannot walk, it hurts to walk. It's a real challenge, right? And that's like one of my favorite self-care practices is getting outside and walking, right? And walking my dog. So I was really struggling, and I do a lot of different, I work with chiropractor and acupuncture and massage therapy and all that stuff. And you kept saying to me, Allison, you have this because you're out of balance. And I'm like, oh, I know. Like, I should know better. So I went into
Do you want to tell them what I specifically said to you?
Because I doubt I probably blocked it out because I was mad at myself. What did you say?
Because I said your butt's not working.
That's right. You did say that. You said my butt's not working right, which is interesting because I could feel it. Like I knew, because I do yoga and I was a ballerina when I was younger. So I could tell things weren't working right. But, you get busy with life and you just kind of pretend like those things aren't happening. And finally, I went into Julietta last week and she got me all balanced and worked her magic. And I cannot tell you what's interesting. You remember what I said to you when I was laying on the table? I said, how long is this going to last for? And you're like, I don't know, until you do something to get yourself out of balance. Well, guess what?
What?
I'm back out of balance, so I'll be back in soon. So
I told you too, the fact that you have a bone spur, like we need to take the pressures off the body that created the pull, that created it in the first place. Right. Once that's gone, it doesn't mean the pain is instantly going to go away, because the body needs time to reabsorb that excess bone that grew there. And
what's interesting to me is that after I saw you the first couple days, it felt, oh my gosh, felt so much better. I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to not walk with pain anymore. I was so happy. But with the balancing, because I think I had been out of balance for so long, with balancing me, my lower back started to bother me. And I'm like, dang it. I'm like, I gotta go back to Julietta. So apparently my butt muscles still aren't working right, girl.
So, and it's, the longer you're out of balance, it's a little bit more complicated to get you back. But once you get there, you should just do what I love. I had, like, 2 weeks ago, I had 2 kids, like 2 boys under the age of 18, both self-initiating, going to their parent and saying, I need to go see Julietta because I know I'm off balance. And they came in here and I asked them, did you hurt yourself or something? Because they're both kids that play a lot of sports, and they've come to me when they've been injured. And both of them, I asked, did you hurt something? No, I just can feel that I'm off balance, and I want you to balance me so that I don't get hurt playing. And I was like, wow, these kids get it. I mean, thankfully, because their parents have been bringing them to me since they were really young. But how amazing would it be if everybody got that? Like, we talked about this. It's much better to do preventative medicine than to fix things after they're broken. And that would be my dream, if everybody would come to stay balanced before they're in pain, before they're hurt. And especially, we talk about self-care. For a lot of our audience, self-care is walking, yoga, Pilates. I'm forgetting things but if you're hurt and you can't do those things, you're taking away that thing that fills your soul, that fills your fuel tank. And so it's better to stay balanced so that you can keep doing those things that make you feel good, rather than waiting till you get hurt and then you have to take a break from it for a little while. And
that's no fun. No. That does not make my soul happy to not get outside and walk. So yes.
Exactly. So, all right. Unless you have anything to add, now it's time for our sponsor.
Let's do it.
So happy to have our sponsor, Graciela Valdez Photography. She is an award-winning, published, and professionally certified portrait photographer who specializes in boudoir and personal branding. She creates custom and concierge portrait experiences that are transformative and life-affirming. Whether it's an intimate portrait honoring your highest self or a professional, engaging portrait for your business, she makes pictures of who you are, not just what you look like. And that is so true. And I know Allison is going to have a session with her, which you need to get that scheduled, but you're going to love it. Like, her pictures are amazing, and B, just the whole experience, the Graciela experience is fantastic. So I can't recommend her enough. And it's time to bring on our guests.
Yes, let's do it.
I'm super excited to bring Wendy on today. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Would you please introduce yourself to our audience? Tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So in the short story, currently I teach at a local university, some really fun classes, but the life story in a nutshell, I grew up in Germany and Texas and Utah and California as a military brat. And so I was exposed to a lot of different cultures and lifestyles and things. And then in high school, I discovered the art of movement, i.e. dance, mostly social partner dancing. And discovered this whole new language. And then that sort of shaped my journey into anthropology, or the study of cultures, and then into fitness and wellness and health, and now here I am.
Yay. Well, so glad to have you. And speaking of anthropology and cultures, just to let our audience know, Wendy and I met because we went on the same trip to Egypt together. So that was quite
Speaking of anthropology and
cultural
culture,
experience.
So did you know each other before Egypt? You met on
we met at Egypt.
Met
Yeah.
in Egypt.
and how you met in Egypt, and how did you find out about the Egypt trip, Wendy?
A friend of a friend.
Okay. That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And here she is on our podcast now.
Yay.
Small world.
Small world. All right. Are you starting or am I starting?
I can start.
Oh.
So as you know, Wendy, we're going to ask you some questions. So we're going to start right in here. The first one is, what one book do you wish every goddess would read?
And I'm going to cheat and do maybe 2 or 3, but very quickly. So the first book I think that was super life-changing was the Siddhartha book. And it was funny, as I had the book for a few years, but it wasn't until I was fully symptomatic with Lyme disease that I stopped long enough to actually read it, because I was so emotionally distraught that I didn't have enough energy to do anything else. So I said, okay, fine, I'll read.
Wow.
And sorry, had a moment.
It's okay.
Already. Let's see. But the Lyme disease forced me to have to be still, because otherwise I was out jogging and dancing and I would just go. I was like beyond full of life, but I was out of balance with the being still and being active. Mm-hmm. And so having to be still with Lyme disease, I began to appreciate the art of stillness. And as I went through reading Siddhartha, and that, like, of all his journeys and all of his different professions and pathways and everything for him, the actual message was, be still. The answers are inside. Mm-hmm. And so it really kind of changed my thinking, I guess, in a way that it's like, oh, it's not all about out there. It's more about in here. And then to quickly move into, from the next phase of the journey was a book called Mastery, The Keys to Success and Long-Term Fulfillment. And I actually accidentally ran across that book while I was looking at our college bookstore, even though I was no longer in college. I just couldn't help myself. But I saw this book and it really caught my attention. Mastery is the story told from the practice of martial arts. And for me, I was relating it to the practice of, what you have to do for competitive dancing and performing and that precision and things. And that the message there was that it's really about that everyday practice that creates the mastery. Even examples like Michael Jordan, every day he would still dribble and free, and shoot. And there's just those basic skills. That's what created the mastery, not all the tricks and the fancy things that we think of. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's
good. Nice. And 2 books that are completely new to our show, because we find a lot of us like the same books. So sometimes we get the same books over and over. So
I know, I was thinking, what books they've already heard of.
Well, I know a few people going through Lyme right now, and it's a real struggle, and I can understand where it does force you a bit to be still and to, I'm impressed that you took that time. Like, so many people would just be unable to handle that, they would be depressed. And I'm sure you were depressed. Don't get me
I
like,
was,
I'm
I
sure it
was.
was. Yeah, I'm sure you
Full
were.
moons were the worst.
I bet. Yeah. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that you took that time and you made the best of that situation that you could, and you got into reading and you got into that book. And I think that's a really good, lesson. It's one of the things, it's interesting to me. It makes me think of, for our young people, because like I said, I have a 25 and 22-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And my youngest, she's had COVID twice. And because she's at college, they have to quarantine. Like, there's just no question. They make them quarantine. They can't go around anybody. And I'm like, read a book, pick up a book and read. Like, this is your time to like relax and rejuvenate and read. And you know what I mean? So I think it's really, it's an important lesson. I think sometimes things happen in our life that kind of force us to do things when we're going a little crazy. So
yeah, and I really appreciate you tapping in on that point, because so often, and I think you all have noticed this, we're in epidemic proportions now of substance abuse.
yeah.
Right? Because somewhere we got this notion that, oh, this pill will make me feel better.
Yep.
Or this food or this alcohol, whatever, it'll make me feel better, or at least make me forget.
Mm-hmm.
And really, when you're looking at something like Lyme's, everything you put in your body makes you feel worse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
things like that weren't even an option on the table to maintain any sense of sanity.
Mm-hmm.
So part of it was, well, I was running. I was like you. I was active. I was dancing. I was like, I just discovered salsa, and it was like wonderful, and all these things. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, every time I would go jog, I would come back and feel like I'd been hit by a truck.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, fortunately, speaking of the music and dance, there are healing elements to the music of salsa, because of the Ghana drumming influence. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that became my healing dance.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
To get through that.
I first started, but like, we're going off on a tangent here, and I'll finish up. I first started doing sound therapy in my yoga classes. One of my yoga instructors would use it. And I was like, that was incredible. Like, so incredible how good it felt. Yeah. And it sounds weird, but it really is quite interesting how much sound therapy and music does for you. So.
Well, we are all vibration.
So exactly. Yeah.
When we resonate with healing vibrations, then it puts our body back into balance, into homeostasis, into all those fun
words.
Yeah.
Nice. Exactly why my treatment table is a sound bed.
Yeah, I love her. I didn't even mention that.
Yeah, I need to come see her.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that. Like, that's one of my favorite parts about going to Julieta's office. I just want to lay on that darn bed because it like vibrates and has sound, and it's got crystals. And I'm like, I could just lay there for a half an hour and be like, good to go. I need one of those.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome.
So I would say, even if I do a bad job, my table will heal you by
There you go. There you go. All right. So speaking of all of these great things that we're talking about, our second question leads right into this. So what is your one favorite self-care practice, and how does it support you?
Simply put, moving meditation, which leaves it wide open. For me, it's always been about getting out in nature and just walking and letting the brain just kind of go through all the garbage it's going to go through. Well, he said, he said, she said, and then just have all those little conversations that I can't have or wouldn't have with the person, but let them just flow in my mind as I'm walking. And then I come back and I'm resolved, or at least less upset, or just like more in tune, more in balance, more back into like normal, whatever that is these days. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then of course the other benefits are anytime we're moving, whether it's dancing or yoga and all the things that you all were mentioning up front, the self-care practices of, Tai Chi, Qigong, they're all movement based. So it doesn't matter. Well, I mean, you pick the one that speaks to you and do that. And then, it's benefiting our lymphatic system, but it's also allowing us to literally move through the stuckness of the emotions that we're experiencing.
I think most people have made the connection, but it's emotion. So emotions are movement themselves. So
yes, and now I don't know how accurate it is, but some etymologies of the word talk about it coming from Latin, where it's energy plus motion, and I'm like, yeah,
that makes sense. But I love that you brought up about the walking and your mind. So that's one of the places when I'm out walking outside. I usually am walking the dog, but I am walking
yeah, me
outside.
too.
And that's one of the places where my mind, like, just, I work out all kinds of stuff. Like, some people do that in the shower. Some people do that when they're doing yoga or what. Mine is what, I mean, I like, that's where I come up with some of my like
Your best ideas.
yeah, my best ideas. That's where I come up with solutions for things. That's where, if I'm struggling, like you said, if I'm having an issue, he said, she said, or whatever's going on, that's my place where I can like work it all out in my brain and come to a better place with it. So thank you for saying that, because I thought I was the only one that did that. I thought I was the only crazy person walking down there. Like, I'm sure if people drive by me when they're walking, because I'm sure my facial I'm very expressive with my face. It's probably all over the place.
I'm like, I can't believe you said that. And then, fortunately now everybody's having conversations with their ear pads in, or the AirPods. They don't know if you're actually talking to somebody or not.
So true.
Like, okay.
Talking to someone on the phone, and you can be talking to yourself. I also love that you brought up lymph, because
I do too. Yes.
It's one of the most underlooked at systems of our body and so vital to our health.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's starting to gain more and more recognition. And so we keep putting that out there. Lymph. Like, you got to take care of your lymph.
Yeah. And it's like, what I used to talk to my students about. I mean, this is a circulatory system. It's like your sewage system of your body. And and it doesn't have a pump like your heart to move it throughout your body. So if you're not moving, your sewage is stuck. And that's
yeah, God, I love how these conversations always come, like, they always are so connected. So my youngest, we have finally figured out some issues she has. We think she's got like a sluggish lymph system. It's just really not moving. And one of the massage therapists / physical therapists that Juliet and I both know, she and I were talking, and she was talking with my daughter, and she's like, you have to get up and walk around. Like, you have to get moving. Nothing else gets that moving but your movement. Like, because my daughter was a competitive dancer, but she doesn't like to exercise, right? So
that would be me.
Yeah. So she'll just sit. So our friend,
I can't dance, I'm not moving.
Right. And so our friend was like, just get up and just walk. Go for a walk. Go walk around your, just get everything moving. And I don't think people understand that. And you explained it so well. Our lymph, or Julietta did, our lymph system doesn't have a pump that keeps it. It's us moving that gets that moving. So
yeah, we're the pump.
Important. Yeah, it's very important.
You talk about get pumped up. I mean, literally.
You must have had so much fun with Wendy. She seems like she's a blast.
Exactly why I'm happy to have her here on the show.
We had a delightful time. In fact, I had just shared with Julietta a picture of the two of us when we were in traditional Egyptian attire for one of the nights of what were we on, the cruise or something?
Yeah, the cruise.
We were like getting our Egyptian goddess on.
We'll post it in the Facebook group so people can check us out in our galabeas. Yes. All right, we got to get moving on these questions here. We're so distracted here. Yeah. So we all have these days where we just don't feel like showing up, but we know we gotta. So when you're having one of those days, what tool do you pull out of your back pocket to make everything happen?
Well, in a nutshell, for me, when I get to those points, it's usually because I'm in a state of overwhelm. And when I get to that, there's too many things on my plate, or there's just, there's too many tasks, and then I'm just stuck. I can't think about anything because all of these thoughts are trying to occupy my little space here all at the same time. And I get stuck. I mean, I'm like, I can't do anything. Okay. You know, I'm like a little 2-year-old. Man, I'm not doing anything. But I found, and I found for me the only way to really kind of snap myself out of that is like, okay, I can't do everything, but I can do one thing.
Mhm.
And whether it's as simple as, okay, I'm going to like make my bed, or I'm going to do the dishes, or usually it ends up being housework because that's the one thing I try to avoid. But
You and me both.
I say that out loud in front of people. Oops.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But, you know, I mean, it's like simple tasks, or maybe like, oh, there's too many grades. Okay, so I'm going to start with one class and one assignment. And then for some reason, it's psychological or I don't know all the science behind it, but by doing that one thing, it's like, oh, okay, I got something accomplished. Yay. All right. And then all of a sudden there's room to think and to get on to the next one thing.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's
a great tool, super useful,
Yeah,
and
it is.
one that I think our audience can very easily grab on and say, "Oh, I remember that. Let me find the one thing I can do."
Yeah, I agree. It's sometimes, and I think you're right. Sometimes we, as women, we have so much going on, and we one of the a mentor of mine does not like this word. We get overwhelmed, and it's hard for us to like. We get so in that space that we can't even focus. And I think that is excellent advice, just to point people back to just find one thing that you can do, because it's so true. Once you sit down and you do that one thing, you're like, oh, okay, and then you can just keep on, working through. So
It's really
It's
just
a
taking that first
ballroom.
step, you know, because we weren't designed to be multitaskers. And the more we try to multitask, the more we become non-taskers.
true. Yeah, I love that. Okay, our
Question.
next question is, and I know can be difficult to find one, but what life experience has formed who you are today?
I would have to say, and I'm going to start it with the silliest little story. So when I was in college, I was able to be part of a performing group, and we did American traditional dances for the purpose of taking those dances to European dance festivals, where we got to meet and interact with um, traditional dancers and performers from literally all over the world. And this was a few decades ago, but and so here we were in these little small, more remote villages or smaller cities in Germany and France and Spain, and the way it was structured is that we had these we had live musicians. Everybody had to bring a band of playing the traditional music, and then there was the dancers. And so after we'd do all our parades and performances, they would have like a social gathering for all the performers. And of course, now we've got people from Turkey, Ireland, Yugoslavia at the time, and, South America, North America, like lots of languages you can imagine. And we didn't have really a way to communicate a lot of the times, or very minimally. But what we found was when our musicians started jamming together, like, hey, you know this song? Yeah, then all of a sudden the dancers are like, we know that tune. So we all start dancing. Within minutes, we had spilled out from the place where we were at onto the street. And now there's groups of us doing these, different folk dances from all over the world on the street. And I can still vividly remember to this day, there was like a, um, a guy from Yugoslavia and a guy from Turkey and a guy from Germany and a guy from Ireland, and couples, and a few other places. And we couldn't really, talk the same language. Who knows what religions we all were, different politics, different religion, all those different differences. But in that moment, We were all the best friends in the world, having the best time ever. And this music, this dancing went beyond language. And so whenever I would teach my dance classes after that, actually it did, it shaped my direction to then study more about culture and more about dance and more about how this communication process transcends language and politics and religion and all of those things. And it truly builds unity in the community. So when I had the opportunity to begin teaching dance classes at the university level, then I would always introduce it with the dance everyone loves to hate, which is that chicken dance, because that was the dance that was introduced to us that year on these tours as the international language of music and dance. So it was like the dance of the year. And it's like, you love to hate it because it's so dorky, but yet by the end of the song, you're just so busy like making fun of a bird or laughing or whatever, you forget all the junk you're carrying with you, all of the self-perceptions, all of the, are they watching me do that? All the things we do on the dance floor. And so I think that summer, that 5-week experience really truly has shaped everything I've done since. Because it's really about whether it's like introducing people to dance, introducing people in my marketing classes that I teach now at the university, or in the profile program that I designed based on social dances. It's all about finding ways to connect.
That's beautiful. Love that.
Yeah. And it was taking me back to, I was an exchange student in Venezuela in 1986. And, besides Americans there were exchange students from all around all around the globe. And, the exchange program that I was with, it was actually started by ambulance drivers from the First and Second World War. And their whole belief was that if people could realize, meet each other and become friends with each other, that could potentially eliminate war. Because you think that you're so different, but then you get together and you just realize, like, we're all the same.
We all want to laugh. We all want to love.
Absolutely. Yeah. So beautiful that you found that through dance. So it's time for our final question, which is, if there's one thing that you would want our audience to remember from this interview, what would that be?
It's going to be a spin-off of the last question, which is, if we spent more time focusing on what's similar about others, we would see less of the differences.
Yeah.
I
know. It's like, yep. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. This was such a pleasure having you, Wendy.
Oh, thank you.
So
it was a joy to be here.
Awesome. So everyone watch out on our Circle of Goddesses group. We'll put that picture of Wendy and I in our galabeas in Egypt up there so you can all see it. And thank you again, Wendy, for being on the show with us. It was great having you and great seeing you again. And also want to thank our sponsor, Graciela Valdez Fine Art Photography. And thank you also to our listeners. And if you've liked what you've heard today, please like, follow, subscribe, share. What else do
all those
things. And also, if you need to get a hold of Wendy, Allison, or myself, all of our social media contact information, all of that, you can find it in the show notes or the comment section below. And I think this show's a wrap. I want to wish you all a very magical day.
Thank you.
Bye.